It was built on a sandbar called 3 Mile Island in the middle of Pennsylvania's Susquehanna River, just 10 miles downstream from the state capital of Harrisburg. The plant's state-of-the-art Unit 2 reactor had been generating electricity for nearly a year.
3 Mile Island was something, you know, you'd go to the river and you'd say, wow, look at that power plant, look at those big steam towers. And I was just amazed and wide-eyed and, you know, looking at the thing, and it was just kind of neat. It was high technology, and this was, it was going to be power that was too cheap to meter.
People in the communities surrounding the plant had grown accustomed to the giant concrete fortress. For them, Wednesday, March 28, 1979, began like any other day. They didn't yet know that events leading to the worst nuclear accident in American history had already been set in motion. It started in the pre-dawn hours with a simple plumbing breakdown. Then a small valve opened to relieve pressure in the reactor. But unknown to the plant operators, it malfunctioned and failed to close. This in turn caused cooling water to drain from the open valve. The nuclear core began to overheat. Technical failures were then compounded by human error. Confronted by baffling and contradictory readings, the operators shut off the emergency water system that would have cooled the core.
If the operators had not intervened in that accident at 3 Mile Island and shut off the pumps, the plant would have saved itself. They had thought of absolutely everything except what would happen if the operators intervened anyway. So the operators thought they were saving the plant by cutting off the emergency water, when in fact, they had just sealed its fate.
Within minutes, the control room console went wild. Hundreds of lights started flashing, accompanied by piercing horns and sirens. One operator recalled that the console was lit up like a Christmas tree.
There was such an avalanche of alarms that the operators couldn't really address any of those on a real-time basis. They were just catching up and trying to prioritize and handle the most important ones and do what they could.
There was so much data being dumped to the computer, and the process was so slow in getting it analyzed and printed out, that when they'd go to look for data from their computer printout, it wasn't there until an hour and a half later.
By early morning, the exposed part of the core was beginning to cook. Temperatures in the reactor were already reaching 4,300 degrees. At 5,200 degrees, meltdown. A scenario called the China Syndrome.
The core could have turned into a molten white-hot mass. It could have gone through the concrete base of the plant and into groundwater, which is immediately below the foundation of the plant. Could have fractured the earth instantly in all directions, and geysers of radioactive steam would have spouted into the air through the parking lots. And a cloud of death would have wafted north over the city of Harrisburg.
Operators remained convinced that the core was covered and safe. No one in the control room could see that 3 Mile Island was hurtling towards meltdown.
Most of us who had spent our lives in this business didn't believe that could happen. We had a mindset that said we had these marvelous safety systems which had backups of backups. So there was that mindset that I think made it hard for people to really come to grips with the reality that severe damage had occurred.
As the operators struggled to make sense of the accident, workers throughout the plant flocked to the control room.
By 6:15, the control room must have had 50, 60 people in it, more arriving every moment. And then they get the alarm, radiation in the control room. Well, that's got to be a heart stopper.
Contaminated water from the open valve had leaked into an adjoining building and was releasing radioactive gases throughout the plant. With radiation threatening to escape to surrounding communities, Supervisor Gary Miller declared the first general emergency ever to arise at a nuclear power plant in the United States. The operators, grabbing their respirators, would remain at the helm of the runaway reactor. The radiation level inside the containment dome was reading 10,000 rems per hour. A dose so high, only minutes of exposure would prove fatal.